Welcome to ET English, the unique English language learning feature of Education Times. This recording is brought to you by Panthea Gunathilaka, the founder of Cleon, Academy for Speech, Drama and Leadership. The Education Times comes to you every week with the Sunday Times, a leading publication of Vijaya Newspapers Limited. ET English introduces a unique way of learning English. Through stories, it has a short novel and also a picture story, both of which are being published in episodes every week. All the lessons and activities that are given in the feature are from these two stories. Many English scholars accept that when you learn a language through stories, you remember them better. Further, the picture story will complement this by adding the visual component as well, where it will help the readers create vivid images in their minds, helping them remember those dialogues and the words through these incidents. Now we're going to bring the audio version of this feature, where you can listen to the stories and the lessons. First the picture story, secondly the novel, and finally the lessons. The short stories are taken from the book The Mirror of Paradise by Asghar Hussain, and beginning with the new picture story I, Jenners, writer Ranjit Gunaratne. To get the best out of this feature, we suggest that you get a copy of the Education Times and also a dictionary. Also, it will help if you read the feature once or twice on your own. At the same time, try to get the correct pronunciation by listening to audio attentively and repeatedly and trying to read it after every dialogue, emulating the voices that you hear. We shall start now. We bring you episode number 2 of I, Jenners, writer Ranjit Gunaratne, illustrations by Anton B. Pereira.
Who the heck are you? Why don't you mind your own business?
When you are blocking the road and harassing innocent girls, yes, it is my business.
Oh, wow, look at him. Who do you think you are? Superman? Spider-Man? Ha, ha, ha.
It doesn't matter who I am. Let these girls go.
Are you crazy, dude? Who is holding them? Me?
Hold it, please. You guys don't need to pick a fight here.
Are you alright?
Yes, we are. Thanks, Ayya.
Then let's go. Please move your car.
Who are you to order me about? I'll move my car when I damn feel like it.
Come on, mister. This road is not your private property. Move your car.
Okay, I am going now. Not because I am afraid of this monkey here, but because it is getting late.
Monkey? We all saw who the monkey is. Now get going.
Malli, this is not over. I will catch you later. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Stop it! Right now!
Let's begin the short story. We continue with episode 12, A Good Medical Boy, based on a story by Asghar Hussain, taken from The Mirror of Paradise. It was a while before Rajpal discovered that I had been listening. He wore a guilty expression. "Just having a little intellectual discourse," he said. "So I noticed," I replied coldly. "But I don't think you convinced him. In fact, he seemed quite baffled." He shrugged his shoulders. "Oh, some of these fellows are like that," he said dismissively. "They just don't get it. Maybe what they need is less intellectual discourse and more sexual intercourse." "Exactly," I replied. "But first tell me, what are you doing here instead of enlarging your medical knowledge?" He scratched his neck and grinned. Then he put his arm around my shoulders and said, "I was hoping we could do some reading together, Machang. It'll be more fun that way." We went to the campus library and referred some medical books. We also visited a medical student in his room. We said we wanted to learn about illnesses for our own good. And he lent us a textbook and shared some of his experiences. However, while I listened to the fellow, Rajpal kept gaping at a skull on a stool. Then he turned to a wall which was sellotaped with posters of the major systems that make up the human body. After critically surveying them, he shook his head and said, "Good thing I'm not into medicine, Machang. I hate to imagine we're made up of separate systems like that. A human wholeness, that's what I believe in." The medical student smiled wryly. Then he said, "Remember, my friend, the whole is always the sum of the parts." From that moment until we left, Rajpal hardly spoke. In fact, he had a rather contemplative look.
Activity 1. Study the language expressions and their contextual reference. Language expressions. He wore a guilty expression. Contextual reference. He was embarrassed. The second one. He seemed quite baffled. He looked mystified. The third one. For our own good. For our personal benefit. The fourth one. Rajpal kept gaping at the skull on the stool. Rajpal continued staring at a brain. The fifth one. Major systems that make up the human body. The main structures composing the human body. The sixth one. The medical student smiled wryly. The medical student grinned ironically.
Activity 2. Examine the simple past tense verbs used in the text. Study the parallel equivalents given and expand your vocabulary.
The first one. He wore. Dressed in. Showed off. Put on. The second one. I replied. Responded. Answered. Countered. The third one. He shrugged, raised shoulders and dropped, dismissed. The fourth one, he put, placed, positioned, laid. The fifth one, we wanted, required, needed, sought. The sixth one, we referred, consulted, checked, accessed. The seventh one, he shook, trembled, shuddered, quivered. The eighth one, I noticed, saw, observed, noted. The ninth one, he seemed, appeared, looked, gave the impression. The 10th one, he scratched, rubbed, stroked, caressed. The 11th one, we visited, stayed with, called on, went to see. The 12th one, we went, left, departed, pulled out. The 13th one, he lent, loaned, allowed to use, gave. The 14th one, he turned, twisted, rotated, spun.
Activity 3. Read the sentences 1 to 8 in column A and identify the word class of the underlined words. Match them with their corresponding word classes given in column B from A to H and underline the correct answer. Listen carefully.
Column A. First one. That's what I believe in, he said. Column B. Preposition. The second one. I don't think you convinced them. Verb. Exactly, I replied. Adverb. The fourth one. The medical student smiled wryly. Noun. The fifth one. In fact, he had a rather contemplative look. Determiner. Sixth one. He scratched his neck and grinned. Determiner. The seventh one. He lent us a textbook. Pronoun. The eighth one. We visited a medical student in his room. Adjective.
Moving on to activity 4. Your task is to match the words you find under task 1 with the adverbs given in task 2.
Task 1. 6 adverbs that end in "ly" are found in the text. Read the text carefully and find them. Task 2. Analytically, amusingly, precisely, indifferently, scarcely, contemptuously.
Moving on to the last activity, activity 5. It's our common language expressions and possible applications. Study the language expressions from the picture story and see how you can apply them in different situations.
Language expressions. The first one. Who do you think you are? Possible application. Who do you think his father is? Who do you think I am? The second one. Why don't you mind your own business? Possible application. Why don't you look after yourself? You'd better look after yourself. The third one. What do you think you're doing? What do you think I am doing? What do you think we are going to do next? Who are you to order me? Who am I to advise you? Who is he to guide us? The fifth one. Are you crazy, dude? Are you mad, buddy? The sixth one. Are you alright? Are you fine? Are you okay?
Moving on to the word bank. Only the meanings relevant to the context in the stories are given below. The first one, heck, used to show that you are slightly annoyed or surprised. The second one, harass, means to annoy, worry somebody by putting pressure on them. The third one, dude, a slang word for a man. The fourth one, damn, a swear word that people use to show that they're annoyed. The fifth one, intellectual, means connected with the person's ability to think logically. Fifth one, discourse, means speech, address, lecture. Moving on to the seventh word, baffle, means to confuse somebody completely. Eighth one, shrug, means to raise and drop one's shoulders to show that he or she doesn't know or care about something. Ninth one, dismissive, to show that you do not believe a person, thing to be important. 10th one, grin, means to smile widely. The 11th one, skull, it's the part of the bone structure that forms the head and surrounds and protects the brain. The 12th one, surveying, looking carefully at the whole of something. Moving on to 13, we find the word wholeness, which means completeness. 14th word, wryly, means showing you're both amused and disappointed. 15th word, hardly, in other words you could say rarely. The last word for today, the 16th one, contemplative, means thinking quietly and seriously about something. We come to the end of the activity time of episode 12 of ET English. Dear listeners, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our recordings. You're welcome to give us your feedback and suggestions on the phone numbers and the email address given in the ET English feature in the Education Time section. We meet again next week. The recording was brought to you by Panthea Gunathilaka, the founder of Cleon Academy for Speech, Drama and Leadership. Until then, goodbye and happy learning.